All right. Well, Sevgi, thank you so much for being willing to talk to us here at RUSU, Refugees Unknown Stories Untold. And one of the things that we're doing is we're collecting stories about people that are either political exiles, have had to leave because of climate change, or conflict and war, etc. And so I know that that you held a very prominent job in Turkey during the period of time of the 2016 coup. And you've had a really long journey. And as I understand it, you're doing something very new now and something very different. Could you kind of start at 2016 and just give us kind of a quick rundown of what you had to do based on that coup attempt and having to flee and ending up here in the United States?
Sure. My pleasure to talk to you, Vonya. But just to set the record straight,
Mm-hmm.
I had left Turkey before the coup attempt on July 15, 2016,
Okay.
because even though the massive purge started immediately after the July 15, 2016 coup
Mm-hmm.
attempt, uh, pressure against journalists had been ongoing even long before that. So, being the editor-in-chief of English Daily in Turkey, largest English daily named Today's Zaman, we were already under a lot of pressure. And to make a long story short, the government finally shut down our newspaper, illegally took over our newspaper on March 4, 2016, accusing us, the executives of the newspaper and the media group, of terrorism and quote unquote terrorist propaganda. I realized that I am no longer safe in Turkey. I was already sentenced to suspended imprisonment before in late 2015 due to one of my tweets. Actually, not even my tweet, a comment left under my tweet. I was already under fire. I was receiving threats on social media every single day. Our newspaper used to be like surrounded by Erdogan supporters very often. So I already thought that Turkey was like hell for me, and there was no future for me in my home country. And I decided to leave on March 6, 2016. And I think this was one of the best decisions of my life, because otherwise I would have been in jail just like so many of my colleagues.
Right. Yeah. Boy, I'm so glad that you were able to leave that. But you know, you left a really prominent job and something that you really loved to do. And how did just that aspect of it affect you?
I'm not going to say it's easy. It's still not easy. I came to
Mhm.
terms with it, especially after the coup attempt on July 15, 2016. So many people have been under pressure. They have been unjustly, unlawfully persecuted, as you know.
Mhm.
So that's why, compared to what they have been going through, I can't really complain about losing my job, being have to, start over like from scratch, literally,
Mhm.
after a certain age and all in a new continent, etc., etc. It's just so tough. But on the other hand, I'm so grateful that I'm free. I'm able to have a relatively normal life.
Mhm.
Ironically enough, this whole process made me appreciate the things that I used to take for granted. So
Wow, interesting.
that's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
materially speaking, I have less. I have lost a lot.
Mhm.
And I also got so much disillusioned with my home country. So it's been a trauma. So I've been
Yeah.
going through a post-trauma stress disorder. I
Mhm.
still have nightmares in which I dream that I am imprisoned in Turkey with my baby girl,
Yeah.
because that's what's happening to Turkey, to
Right.
specifically Gulen movement sympathizers. So
Mhm.
those demons follow me. I'm not free of them, but
Right.
physically I'm free, and I just can't complain again in comparison to what people go through in Turkey.
Right. Well, you know, the United States gained a very valuable person by
Thank you
you.
so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
absolutely,
Thank you.
by you coming here and you know sharing that story, I think really helps people here in the United States to get a better picture of things that are happening, especially to journalists and people involved in the journalism industry like you in countries, you know, such as Turkey, where you've got dictatorship now, and in other
Hmm.
countries as well, where journalism or journalists are, um, you know, under a lot of pressure, or they're arrested, or you
Hmm.
know, they
Hmm.
have to flee, as you did. What do you foresee in journalism that's happening right now in Turkey?
Um, you're right. It's a part of the general trend. It's just much worse
Mhm.
because what Turkey has been doing lately is only in the last couple of years is only building and investing in prisons, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The prisons are overcrowded. I know your question is about media, but I'm getting there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it's the largest jailer of journalists right now, including media workers. And unfortunately, most of their stories are untold. And that's what you are doing, right? You are trying to
Mhm.
tell these stories. And unfortunately, the sheer number of political prisoners in Turkey are so high, be it journalists or not, people can't really keep track of them because they are in tens of thousands in terms of numbers. So it's not only limited to journalists, even though
Mhm.
journalists are the first target. And when it comes to media in Turkey, it has already been it's already been like hell for people like us. If
Mhm.
you dare to criticize I mean, it's been like this, but it's got much worse since 2016 because right now if you are trying to do journalism in Turkey, you can't really talk out of the framework that Erdogan determines for you. So you
Mhm.
cannot really challenge the official narrative when it comes to Kurds, when it comes to Gülen movement, when it comes to the coup attempt. You cannot
Mhm.
challenge. You just have to parrot the official ideology. So that's why we cannot really talk about true journalism in Turkey. If you are a real journalist, you are either in exile, in prison,
Mhm.
or you have to be silent, self-censor, resort to self-censorship in order to avoid prison time and other consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. You know, I've read a little bit about how many journalists are in jail and how long they have been in there and their sentences, how long those sentences are. And it's just so hard, I think, for people, you know, outside of that and people that don't have a lot of knowledge about things like that happening in Turkey to grasp what that really means or what that really looks like. So by you giving us you know your explanation and kind of the example of what's happening, my hope is that people will get a better picture and understand, you know, that these things are continuing to happen. It's not something that has necessarily, you know, stopped since the 2016 coup attempt.
On the
um,
contrary, Vonya, it gets worse, and that's the most
mhm.
painful part because people are getting used to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we call it apathy,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
we are helpless. There are
Mhm.
tens of thousands of political prisoners. As you mentioned, it's not only the duration of the unlawful jail sentence, it's the arbitrariness and
Yeah.
not knowing because it's so arbitrary. Nobody. That's why I call them political prisoners because
Mhm.
nobody really knows what their crime is. Nobody really knows why they are held in prison for years.
Mhm.
Even the sick ones, severe people with severe illnesses, etc., etc. There are so many. There has been so many deaths and so-called suicides. People are left to their own devices, and this helplessness is really painful.
Mhm.
So it just leads to a lot of frustration, despair, hopelessness. I know this is only one of the countries in the world, just one of the worst examples, but
Mhm.
we know that there are so many parts of the world in which refugees suffer every single day. But you're right, as we speak, people suffer to a great extent.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, the one thing that we can do, Sevgi, is just to continue to tell your story, so that other people can, you know, become more knowledgeable about what happens. Because the more people that
Mhm.
can become more knowledgeable, then maybe the more push that can happen for change. Is
Exactly,
is my hope.
and uh, and also, I mean, we are. on the one hand we are hopeless and helpless,
Mhm.
but on the other hand we have some power, especially in the United States,
Yeah.
because as regular citizens we can choose to put pressure on our politicians, media, to speak up against these atrocities, extreme injustices in places like Turkey, because it's a global responsibility, ethical, moral responsibility
Mhm.
on the shoulder of citizens, so that we don't have the domino effect,
Yes,
because
exactly.
uh, what was this quote? Justice somewhere. I forgot it. So, but I was trying to refer to this Martin Luther King quote, but I couldn't remember. But you know what I'm talking about. I mean, if there
Yeah,
is just justice somewhere, it just means that there is injustice everywhere.
that's right. That's right.
So I think I'm just, if anyone is listening in the United States or beyond in free countries, yeah, they just should know that they should empower themselves
Mhm.
and try to speak up in face of these human rights violations, because they
Yes.
are real. These are human beings that we are talking about.
Mhm. Absolutely. And we've just got the voices of those that are being a voice for those that cannot use theirs is also
Exactly,
so
exactly.
important too.
Yeah,
So
being voice of the voiceless. That's
yeah.
one definition of journalism.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not being a journalist, I
yeah,
wouldn't know
yeah.
that, but it very
Mm-hmm.
much sounds that way. That's a good way to end with, the good points of a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
the voice
Mm-hmm.
for the voiceless, right?
Exactly.
Well, listen,
So
Sevgi, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that that's the least I can do. Even though I have a completely different life here, I'm trying to just make a living here in a different profession. Life goes on, challenges are ahead. But at the same time, I can't really turn my back to my home country, because I know that I have some sort of a moral obligation to those
Mhm.
people who are left behind, because
Right.
they think that they are left to their own devices, and it is true, unfortunately. So people who can, they must speak out.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And you have a platform, to be able to do that because you were so well known with your work back there in Turkey as well. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. I love to read what you're putting out there on Twitter and different things. Of course, I have to translate it, but but you really have you
Sorry,
really have your thumb on the pulse there
yeah.
about what's happening, and you're being outspoken against that just makes you that much stronger. I really do believe so. Thank you for being willing to do that for your country, for those back there that are suffering.
I'm not
Um,
necessarily thinking of this as a service to my country or anything, because I
yeah.
believe in humanity. My nationality is humanity, I think. So
Mhm.
I don't consider myself, it's just because I know what's going on there, and I know these people are my colleagues, my friends, people who used to read me in the newspaper. So
Yeah.
I mostly tweet and broadcast in Turkish, because there are so limited resources,
Mhm.
free and independent resources now. But I also try to raise awareness in English on Twitter, in case people want to follow.
Yep, you do, and you do a great job of that. And you're also, you can look at it that you've got a whole nother career here because you're giving back still, but in a completely different area for those that are needing to learn languages. So that's just wonderful of you to do. Well, I want you to know that I know that you don't have a lot of time here, but I look up to you. I think that what you do is something so admirable. And after all the things that you have been through, emotionally, as well as, having to leave physically from one country and come to another and restart life, that you really inspire other people. So I urge you to continue to do what you do, Sevgi, and know that many of us look up to you.
Thank you so much for lifting my spirit and just giving me a boost, Vonya. I really
Oh,
needed
good.
that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, bye now.